about an hour and a half. He may be telling the truth. You know what I'm supposed to do as a politician, don't you? I'm supposed to make lots of promises. Tell me what you want, and I'll get it for you. You know, you want free health care for everybody? I'll get that for you. You know, if you want us to double your Social Security benefits, I'll get that for you. Do you need a free car? We'll see if we can work on that for you. Somebody said they want a Krispy Kreme donut place out here. We'll work on that for you. But that's all a bunch of nonsense, because it's the easiest thing in the world is to promise. And you notice what happens with politicians. While they're running, they smile at you. They'll tell you whatever you want to hear. But when they get up there, they do something else. I'm not going to be critical, terribly critical of Heath Shuler. I like the guy. I get along with him okay. But there's two Heath Shulers. There's the one in Washington and the one in Western North Carolina. The one in Washington who votes very liberally. For example, this week he voted against a bill to stop earmarks. Pork barrel spending, he voted against it. 100% of the time he's voted against any effort to stop hidden earmarks, pork barrel spending. But that gentleman, who I like, again, he'd come back here with a smile and say, I'm a conservative. Well, folks, I don't know what you believe, but I believe there needs to be a match between what a man says and what a man does. And if a man says one thing and does another, there's something missing. There's something wrong. And that's the way our country is run today. You ever heard of a book called The Road Less Traveled? Scott Peck wrote a book. He died a year or so ago. It's a best-selling book on personal growth there is. Well, he died a couple of years ago, and before he died, he wrote one called People of the Lie. And he said, America is losing its way. Or America is becoming a country where image matters more than substance. America is becoming a country where people are very comfortable lying, hiding the truth. Our leaders do that routinely, and it's almost like we expect them to do it. Well, that won't work. You can't take a country to a good place like that. So, why am I running for Congress? Because I care about my grandchildren, I care about this country, and I have the heart and the courage to fight the absurdity. I would not be here today if it wasn't for Asheville City Council fighting for 6 years trying to support conservative, normal values. Just to be candid with you, it ain't got nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. I'm as disgusted with the Republican Party, if not more so, than I am the Democrat Party. They betrayed us. For the past 10 years, they betrayed us. We put them in there, and they promised that we're going to be careful with other people's money, and we're going to do the right thing. And instead, they got us in a mess of a war, and they're spending money as fast as the Democrats. What's the difference between a Democrat and a Republican in Washington? Democrat taxes you and spends money, and a Republican borrows money from China and Japan and spends money. There really ain't no difference, and that has to change. The equation I believe in is you don't spend more than you got, and you remember that you're reaching into somebody else's pocket when you spend money in government. I am reaching into your pocket. I am, in essence, stealing from you. At the very least, borrowing from you, or at the very least, partnering with you. And if I'm going to do that, I'll respect you and be careful with it. Now, a couple of quick thoughts. People seem to be interested in where a congressional candidate stands on the war. I'll say it in a nutshell. Easiest thing in the world to be is an armchair quarterback. I do not think, however, that we should have gone to Iraq, and I do not believe that we fought that war effectively, but we're there, and I was in Vietnam in 1971 and 72 toward the end of the war. I saw what happens when you go to war and turn your back on the people. I saw this country betray the Vietnamese and betray the men and women who had died in Vietnam by walking away, and I think it's wrong. We made the mistake of going there, but now that we're in the fight, I think we should stay the course. support the men and women who have served there, and fight it out to a conclusion. Now, I don't know that we can win, but if we leave now, we know what will happen. We're swapping assured chaos for the possibility of victory and hope. That's a bad deal, and I think we fight it out. Let's see some of the other things. Illegal immigration, and I'll probably upset a person or two in the room with this one. I think this is the greatest law-breaking scheme in the history of America. I think the Democrats are supporting it because they have a potential voting bloc that will give them control in the future, of our future. And I think the Republicans are supporting it because they like cheap labor. And so we've got a perfect storm of paralyzed leadership that somehow or another believes it's okay for people to violate our borders illegally and for other folks to employ them illegally. I believe that's wrong. If you're going to make laws, you need to enforce them. Otherwise, don't make them. What happens to a culture when you quit when you quit upholding your laws? A culture that makes laws that they don't support begins to die. And I think that's happening in America. And I'll tell you one of the best examples I can think of locally, and that's with our drug problem. I'll bet you money in Barnardsville. I remember I graduated from Owen High School in Black Mountain in 1970. We had one guy that year caught smoking marijuana. They kicked him out of school for the rest of the year. He was the talk of the Swannanoa Valley for months. Now nobody thinks of it. I guarantee you, somewhere in Barnardsville, probably in 2 or 3 places, we can go out and buy crack cocaine and methamphetamine in Barnardsville. Who would have ever thought that would have happened? What a bunch of nonsense.
You may have a bunch of grass stored up here in a couple of places that I know of too.
Grass stored, probably grass grown. In Asheville, North Carolina, at any time of day, and believe me because I've done it, 7 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon, 5 in the evening, 10 in the evening, 2 in the morning, it doesn't make any difference. I can take you to buy drugs in a dozen places where there'll be somebody standing out there openly, I call it an open-air drug market, willing to sell you drugs. What does that tell us? First off, we know that drugs, you can't get to a good place with drugs, either as an individual or as a community or a city or a culture. It says we're turning our back on what really matters. We're selling our soul and selling our future to substances that destroy people and people who destroy people. And there's no future in that. I'm disgusted with the way Asheville handles our drug problem. Because whatever disease we get in Asheville, where does it eventually travel to? It comes right out into the communities. It spreads out. And that's why I fought so hard against that drug problem in Asheville, because I know it's corrupting western North Carolina. I'm not done yet, by the way. There's more to come. About time for me to wrap up here. See, I told you it's going to be an hour and a half. I've talked on. Let me just, rather than my babble on here, let me see if there's several things I'd like to share with you. But a better way to do that might be to see if you have a question or a thought, something to teach me or us, or just a question, anything you'd like to know about where I'd stand on it. Mrs. Shelton, do you have something floating around in that mind?
I like everything you're saying.
Thank you.
We just don't have honesty anymore. People won't tell the truth. All around you can see it. I like the truth, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
I think that you'd make a good president.
Oh, gosh. Isn't
If you
that
still
true?
believe like you do now, you wouldn't change, I don't think, though.
Now, there's your question right there. Will you change? Now, your son has watched me for 6 years. You know, most politicians, as they serve, they get weaker, not stronger.
That's true. I like the things you're saying.
I've gotten stronger, not weaker.